Hi, everyone, and welcome. This is Tracy Eman of the WSA Bookstore, and today I'm pleased to have Cindy J. Holbrook joining me. Thank you, Cindy, for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Tracy. It's my pleasure.
We are so pleased to announce that your book is going to be in our bookstore, and it is called Overcoming Dark Family Secrets. And I would really love for you to share a little bit about your background with our listeners.
Um, I'm online. I'm known as Cindy J, the Visibility Wiz. I help guide entrepreneurs to be to go from being the best kept secret to a trusted and in-demand expert. I fully believe that one can only grow their business as fast as they grow themselves. Therefore, a lot of the work that I do with my clients is helping them gain and get outrageous confidence to be fully authentic and to show up and be visible online.
I love that, Cindy. And I know, having worked with you in the past, that it really is something that you hold very close to your heart. It is a passion for you. So,
Mhm.
um, and I would love for you to also share with us a little bit about your book, please.
Mhm. And my book, Overcoming Dark Family Secrets, is my life. I was raised in a very abusive home where there is physical, sexual, and mental abuse. I thought that it was normal. And as most people do, just based on what I had learned in the household I was in, I grew up and I married at 18 a man that was very mentally abusive. And it chronicles my life. For the first 35 years, I had absolutely no idea that my life was my choice, or that I had a right to my own opinion, or that I could do something different. It was like I had no sense of identity. And then it leads you through my healing years, where I was first introduced, I think, to self-improvement, and I started doing a variety of things to grow, to succeed. I had a dream. I knew what I wanted to be, but I had so many limiting beliefs or lies that I had believed based on my past that it was preventing me from feeling worthy of the success that I had, or of being more successful than I was.
Wow. I mean, is that what led you to decide to write your book? Was it the mission to share this with others so you could help them?
To an extent, I mean, the deep, dark family secret was like so ingrained in me to never share it with anybody, anytime. And so that was really hard, I think, for me to even be able to start sharing this. I was at an event where it was a Bill Barron event, and it was called The Big Shift. And on the last day, he cleared the room of all the tables and chairs. And then he had everybody line up on one side of the wall, and he said, if these statements ring true to you, take a step forward. So he started saying things like, I've been abused, I've been hit, I've been lied to, I've lied to others, I've hit somebody else, I don't know, there's a whole bunch of questions that he had asked during this 20-minute exercise. Somewhere in the middle of the exercise, I just started sobbing uncontrollably. A gentleman walked up to me and said, may I hug you? And then I started sobbing worse than I already was. There was about 800 people at that event and then Bill said, does anybody want to share? I felt compelled to share my story, but like we were in the back. The gentleman that asked me if he could hug me, his name was Eric, and he was about 7 feet tall. So he stood out, even though we was in the back of the crowd, and he raised his hand for me. And he went up on stage with me, and I began, sharing my story. I was sexually, physically. Well, first I started by saying, it dawned on me, I've been playing small in my business because I've been afraid of big, strong men. So everybody started to laugh. Then I went on to explain that I was sexually, physically, mentally abused by my father, plus sexually abused by two family friends, got married to a man much like my father at 18, and really didn't have a sense of self or who I was. I mean, I was put on this earth as an object for other people, but I felt like if I tried to shine in my business, that men would just squash me like a little ant.
Mm.
So that fear like was really holding me back. And I said, I was very used to women coming up to me and asking me to hug me at events. But when Eric did, he obviously didn't care that I had that invisible sign to men that said, stay away. Whenever he did, at first I said something in me broke, but I realized like it was a healing process for me. And that really propelled my success really quickly afterwards. But after I shared, so many people, both men and women, came up to me and shared how I helped them understand their mother, their sister, their girlfriend, or their wife, or even trauma that they had experienced in their own life. And lots of women came up to me and said, wow, your story is my story, and you really helped heal a part of me. And it was so big at that time, I knew that I had to write my story, that it had the opportunity to really help people heal from their traumatic pasts. And, sometimes we as human beings, we rate trauma, but our bodies don't rate it. So just one thing can happen to somebody that doesn't have to sound like horrible to most people, that can traumatize us and keep us held back. And typically I shared that I wrote a poem just before my first wedding when I was 18 that I was going to read to my first husband during our wedding. And my father told me I would never read that to him. You shouldn't read it. You will be a laughing stock. And matter of fact, if you ever share anything you write with anybody, you will be a laughing stock. He said this one time, and something inside of me decided to believe it. Even though I wrote, nobody never read anything I wrote. When I left my first husband 20 years later, I threw away 5 novels that I had written because I didn't want to be a laughingstock. So a trauma, that is something traumatic in your past that can really affect and heed your success. And whenever people read my story, they like to rate it as a 10, but things that happened to me is no different than if something similar to like my father's one statement talking about my writing, traumatized me and affected me. My body could tell the difference between what had happened, and my mind definitely didn't. So I really felt, after that event, that it was like my mission to really share my entire story and give people hope and inspiration, regardless what their past is. They can at any given moment decide to create a different future for themselves and to stop letting their past define who they are and start defining who they want to be now and who they want to be in the future.
Sounds like there's so much within the book that can help so many people. I mean, listening to you and just that moment that you had at Bill Barron's event and how cathartic that really was for you. And then, we're talking about, my next question is, who can your book help? And you identified a lot of people, but in your mind, is there a specific group of people that you are speaking to more than others?
I really don't know. I know that there's a subset of people out there that definitely, could use it. Noah St. John wrote my foreword, and in it, he said, if you've ever been abused, or you've ever been hit, you've ever been lied to, something like that. I don't remember the exact words. He goes, and this book is for you. In other words, it's for everyone. And then he said that the keys to worthiness, a lot of us, I have a lot of keys to worthiness in there, and exercises that people can do to help feel worthy of success. Because it's all these crazy little things that happen to us, such as my father telling me that I would be a laughingstock. It was like, I didn't want to be a laughingstock, so nobody could read my writing. It took a lot for me to overcome that one line that he told me one time, because I didn't want to be a laughingstock. And a lot of that is just feeling worthy. It's feeling worthy of putting out there what you have. So, I know that my book's not for everyone. It's a little, in some parts, it's a little bit graphic. Some parts is hard to read for different people, but it's not super graphic, but it's definitely graphic enough that you know what's going on. And some people can't read it because of their triggers or what have you. But there's so much in there that can help you move forward.
Hmm. It's kind of like a self-help book in a way, but also with a very um, authentic, traumatic experience that
Yes.
you're conveying to allow people to kind of sort of, like you said, some people might be triggered by it.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, though, that triggering might be kind of how you got triggered at that event. It may be something that will help, right?
Exactly. And I mean, the way that my book goes, I mean, it starts the day that my mother died. And the first chapter is the first week that the day that my mother died and the week following. And then I go back to my childhood, and it's definitely a memoir where it's like I'm sharing my story. But then whenever I get back to where my mother died, then I start, because I always say after my mom's death, it started my hell years. But now I realize my hell years was my healing years.
Mm.
So whenever I start healing, I say my hell years is the chapter of that book. But from there forward, whenever I'm sharing my story and how I was feeling and what was happening, that's where I start the keys to worthiness, where people can, like, the things that I became aware of within myself and what I did to heal it, which is where that all came. So some people, whenever I tell them, like, if you can get to the hell years, after that, it's easier to read.
Or you can start past the hell years and know that you need to go back and read the beginning. Well, this is an incredible book, and I I hope that the right people get a hold of it, and that's what we want people to do. So how else can people get a hold of your book, purchase your book, other than through the WSA bookstore, but where else will it be available?
Definitely through Amazon and my website, which is cindyjholbrook.com. And you can also contact me through cindyjholbrook.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and congratulations on sharing your message and making that difference and impact in the world, because I can tell that this is a relief for you to sort of get this out from inside of you out into the public to make that difference.
It is. And one thing that really intrigued me in writing the book was how much survivor's guilt I had felt that I had to deal with while I was writing it, after watching some of the abuse that my brother experienced. So in there, it's a lot of his experience as well.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Cindy.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you.
Big hugs.